There's a new silhouette in the skies around Star Citizen, and this one is alien through and through. The difference is, this one's got a fully modelled interior. Let's get hands-on with the Syulen. There are a few things about this ship that really stood out to me when I first got my hands on it, so big thank you to Del Kenobi for sorting me out with this ship. Appreciate it, buddy, and make sure you thank him down in the comments. He's the reason this video is coming to you in the first place. One of those things that stands out is the cockpit, and I'm going to show you that later. Everything about the flight, even how you get into it, is really cool. But this captivated me about the Syulen long before I got my hands on it. It's the exterior. It's that beautiful marbling effect on the armor panels. It's the way it lands on those three wings, which actually hold the center section of the ship off the floor. And it's the fact that this thing doesn't strike you as human in any way, shape or form. There are, apart from the wings, of which there are three, there are no real conventions here that you would associate with human ship design. There's no engines, tailplanes, any of that sort of stuff that we would associate back with anything that humans have designed. And that's just perfect. I really like those coloured dots in its armpits, if I could call them that you can see there. It's very reminiscent of the bioluminescence that the Vanduul have, although, of course, this isn't a Vanduul ship. This is a Xi'an ship that was created by Gatac. It's the first flyable ship that we have, although the first ship that they announced was the Radian, which is a medium cargo ship, so they are doing really well establishing the design language here. And the Xi'an are very well known for being very opulent in the way they design. They use Gravlev technology for very kind of trivial things as far as humans are concerned, and we'll see a couple examples of that later. And yes, if you're wondering, if you start to learn the Xi'an language, you can actually translate what's on the wing there. Now, the commercial for the Syulen has this ship just emitting this kind of purple light through the trees, and this person wondering what on earth it is. There's an air of mystery, and finally they've captured the spirit of the trailer in the ship itself. And then you have these three awesome liveries for the ship. The Chiua, the interestingly named Ching, I suppose Bling would have been too obvious, and the concierge only Tamoa. And as you'd imagine of a ship being released at this stage, the ship's exterior is more than just its looks. These pods here are actually the cargo space. Syulen can carry 6 SCU of cargo, meaning that each one of these pods can carry 2 1 SCU boxes. It's an interesting way of carrying stuff, especially when, as we'll see a little later in flight, they actually maneuver into a flight position. So here, they're actually down to be accessible for you and your tractor beam to remove and add cargo as you see fit. We've also got this exterior fueling nozzle for when we have to manually clag our ships to a refueling station in order to take on more hydrogen and quantum fuel. No, your eyes don't deceive you. That is genuinely parts of the side of the ship folding down to become some Gravlev stairs. Now, the Xi'an have a reputation for using Gravlev technology whenever it suits them. And as we step into the interior, one of the things I really like about this is the fact that this ship feels almost like a home. Each deck has a specific purpose. Now, this area is for engineering, and it's the entry and exit way into the ship. So you have your component spaces, again, that crazy Xi'an Gravlev tech, all the panel pieces folding out and coming back in independently and looking really cool, continuing that alien theme. You also have various lighting states controlled by that button. So you have your emergency, red alert, ships taking damage, whatever you want to call it, state, flashing lights, and it completely changed the mood of the interior. Now, I had to look a couple of times to tell the difference between the following lighting states, but you'll see the lighting close to the floor is very yellow at this point by the armor locker. And then when it changes, it's not so yellow, it's more of a whitish colour. So I guess the second one is just mood lighting and however you feel. This is your armor locker, so this is where your armor will be stored, so you can come into the ship, take your armor off, change into something a little bit more comfy to make it feel a bit more like home. When I first saw it, I thought it was an escape pod, but it's not. Thanks for correcting me. And I love the way they've lit this space. It's incredible. It's just such a maturity of their lighting style, even though it's just a component bay. It's really, really cool, and obviously this is now the precursor to the resource management gameplay, changing components, repairing components, and so on. And then this little crazy space is a space for your weapons. So your weapons will go here, so once you're finished on this deck, for doing whatever you're doing, you're into the ship, you're changing completely into far more comfortable clothing, and you're able to proceed to the habitation deck. Now this little interior lift is kind of crazy to think that they've managed to stick 3 decks into a ship that doesn't have a lot of interior space, but you'll notice here the Xi'an very helpfully have added translations for each of the decks, so we'll head to the cabin. And once again, 100% nailed that feel of an alien interior. Now, these sides almost feel like a mix. Some of it feels very utilitarian, with that rock feeling at the top. Obviously feels very homely to the Xi'an. I'll leave it up to you whether or not you like it. It kind of feels like it might feel cold to me. But a lot of the metal paneling kind of have that upper class kind of origin styling and feel to them, especially with the colours, the purple and the gold. So the interior actually feels quite lavish for what is a very small ship. Now, should you want it, and there's a button on the side if you don't feel lazy like I do at the moment, for your desk. Sitting, writing in your journal, having your food, you know, vid calling home on your Mobi-Glass. This is your little slice of comfort. And it is only a little slice, I suppose, but it's kind of cool regardless. And I thought I'd press the button just to show you that it does work. And Star Toilet Tech has taken a massive upgrade with this ship. This little space, we now have a Gravlev enabled toilet and toilet roll holder. I really don't know what else to say about that. But there is this nice juxtaposition of kind of the alien style bits and pieces. The sink on your left, there is the shower head above the toilet here, and those kind of human toiletries that are off to my left. I like the way it fits together, but yeah, you're going to be able to take a shower in your Syulen when Star Musk becomes a thing, I guess. Now, if Star Citizen ship design has taught me anything, it's knowing where you are within a ship. Reference the external world is important, and that's why I really like these windows either side of the lift. You know, if you're waiting for the storm to blow over before you go outside on an adventure, this is where I would be to do that. It's kind of just nice reference point with where you are in the outside world. Maybe keep an eye on hostile fauna and stuff that's moving around. But it's a very alien looking interior, although it does have a bit of a homely feel to me, but I'd be interested to know what you think. Now, Star Citizen designers named this space the Cathedral. Maybe it's a church spire. I don't know if I go as kind of grand as a cathedral, but that's the cockpit that we're looking at, and I want to show you something really cool with it in just a second. We have more component spaces. We're expecting these to be things like the computer, the scanners, all of that sort of stuff. Within easy access to the pilot, all those things immediately that you need just to be aware of your surroundings and stuff. I suppose they didn't have space to fit on the engineering deck down below. As we close this up, I want to show you one of my favourite features of this ship, which is the cockpit and the chair. If you notice, the chair is currently level, so it would sit as you normally would, with you kind of parallel with the floor. The cockpit builds around you as you go up, so let's see this. As I jump in the chair, you rotate so now that you're facing the ceiling, and the cockpit actually disassembles and reassembles as you move into position, which is really cool. Now, when I do that with the controls, it looks even better. The controls build themselves around you, and these two glowing orbs move into position, which I guess is the Xi'an version of hands on stick and stick. Being completely honest, takeoff and landing takes some getting used to. What I've actually done here is I've used W to gain some height because the ship lands pointed at the sky. So moving forward gains me the height, and I now need to downstrafe to get out through the doors, controlling my height with W and S. Most of the hangars that you take off from are too small for the Syulen to go out forwards in either configuration, so you're going to have to get used to this. But once we're clear, we're going to see that absolutely gorgeous animation going from landing to flight mode. Just so much happens there, from the cargo pods moving to the position, to the small wings clicking into position, to the larger wings and the armor panels around that cockpit, all moving into place. And this thing's maneuverability is frankly crazy. It's pretty quick, and it has more maneuvering thrusters than any other ship of its size. But that brings me something that I don't like. Whilst flying around here, I didn't think I was going to do it. This is my first try. This is how forgiving this ship is to fly. One of the things I don't like is the sound of the engine as you put more strain on it. I can see what they've tried to do here. They've tried to make it kind of musical and sound very, very different to another engine note, but it's just something about the pitch. I like the idea. The execution, in my opinion, is flawed. If you thought my takeoff was awkward, you want to see me land this thing. Now, I get the feeling that landing in decoupled will be a lot easier, because as you move in on the right trajectory, you can then alter the attitude of the ship, and of course, because you're decoupled, you're just going to continue on that trajectory. But it's pretty awkward to do this. As a cool aside, if you have emergency lights on the bridge, that causes that really cool red pulsing effect around all the different panels. And whilst the cockpit does have great visibility, it's really impossible, I find at the moment, to do this, as you can see, without doing this in third person. And then it just takes a little bit of practice to remember this is downstrafe, height is controlled with W and S, and remembering which way your strafe goes. There will be a HUD coming to all ships to allow them to land, which should make this easier, but as with so much stuff, it's not there yet. As for combat, this thing comes stock with 3 size 3 repeaters and 12 size 2 missiles. I found it actually a pretty capable combat vessel. I just went to do a low risk bounty here and ended up with 2 ships rather than 1, but as you can see, that opening volley does a lot of damage. The second volley finishes the job. Then an Eclipse tries to jump me out of nowhere, and well, I might not finish this off too well, but you can see that when I actually give the Syulen a chance by getting it on target, it doesn't have slap things around a little. Maybe we could just pretend like that never happened. Don't just take my word for that cockpit visibility though, you can see it for yourself right here. Really good visibility to the sides and the front with only 1 bar possibly getting in the way. I really like the Syulen. There's something about the idea of using it as a mobile base. It really is a good starter ship. You've got packages, you've got cargo, you've got the ability to do some combat. And that quantum effect, even though it's likely to change, just tops it off for me. It is a really, really good looking ship. Thanks again to Del and to Shadow Girl for helping with a little bit of the lore on this one. You've been watching Drinkers with Gaming Problems. Thank you very much for stopping by. I'll see you soon.